Please welcome Holger Mueller, Vice President and Principal Analyst, Constellation Research.
Hello, everybody. We have a special panel coming for you because I looked through the agenda. It's the most competitive panel that we have the whole time. We tried to get the sales guys, but they asked which guns they can bring. And then we thought maybe not such a good idea. Maybe good for PR. Courtney would have loved that, but not so good for the event with like only one man standing out of four. So we got replacements, and the replacements are two marketing and two development folks. And I have to ask them, have you ever sat on four guys on a red couch?
No, that's its college.
So this is special already. And it gets even more special because all these guys, or their respective parts of their business, fight for an HR dollar at companies every day, right? Because if any company decides for one of these, if any of these is your provider for HR software, you probably won't have the other guys except for one, and we'll talk about them later. I won't reveal the secret. Okay, so let's start with that. And we made so many jokes about Canada, so we'll start with our international guest. The most discriminated international population body of 40 million, which does not have an access code, right? So Alan Rottenberg, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you. I'm Alan Rottenberg. I'm the CMO of Ceridian, HCM. And our company is a leading provider of human capital management software in North America and in the UK. And my responsibility is really take the message of Ceridian, a company that's been built to last, to the marketplace with our new Dayforce HCM product, which is a leading component of our offering and is exciting the marketplace very strongly.
And Alan, I heard you have some proof that Canada is a special place out of your hobbies.
Well, my hobbies are hiking and also collecting maps. One of them is maps that show California as an island, which is not a Canadian thing.
It's the other CA thing. Okay.
That's right.
Good, excellent. And it's interesting how the marketing guys segregate on the same couch and the developers segregate on the same couch. So let me.
The smart guys are on that side.
We would get too much hype, so I have to jump over the other marketing guys. Let's go by distance because the questions we start alphabetically. International was easy, so Patanjali probably from Florida has a longer flight. So yes, Patanjali, why don't you introduce yourself?
But originally from Canada as well, so I'm your Canadians on both ends of the stage here. So Patanjali, I'm the Vice President of User Experience at Ultimate Software. We're the only exclusive provider of cloud-based HCM. I've actually been at Ultimate for just over a year. I worked alongside Chris and other folks at Oracle for almost 12 years. And it's been really exciting coming to an organization that really puts people first. Most of the organizations I worked with in the past, it's more about putting executives first. So this has definitely been a very interesting opportunity.
And you have a tendency to step on stuff.
Oh, yes. Well, I once went scuba diving off the coast of the South China Sea, stepped on a rock, only to realize there was actually a giant sea turtle the size of a VW Beetle. However, thankfully, it was moving even slower than most large software companies, enterprise software companies, so I managed to escape.
So we get some good feeling here going on. Thank you, Patanjali. So Jason, coming from New York, second largest commute, come here. Tell us about yourself.
I grew up in the other CA, which is California here, but I now live in New York. So my name is Jason Corsello. I lead corporate strategy and marketing for Cornerstone On Demand. Hopefully you know who Cornerstone is. We are the leading provider of talent management solutions in the market. We differentiate ourselves obviously from the others as we specialize in talent management. I've been with the firm for about 2.5 years and have ridden a nice growth wave at the company. We continue to grow, compounded over the last 5 years at about 60%. So we've been a little bit lucky and a little bit good in that we've been participating in a really great market along with my fellow colleagues here, and it continues to be a really great market to play in. And I think we've only scratched the surface of what we can do in both HCM and talent management.
And I learned you could have married a Portuguese woman.
No, it's Holger asked questions of something unique, and I guess I'm very boring because I couldn't think of something great. But for me, I grew up in California. I live in New York. I work for an LA company. And I worked in Guadalajara, and I met my wife, who happened to be a New Englander in Portugal. So I don't know what you call me. I guess I'm not, at least I'm not Canadian. That's probably the best way to say it.
It's not that bad.
We won't hold that against you. Okay. And the shortest commute for Chris, how was traffic on 92?
It was okay coming in, not too bad.
So tell us about yourself. What do you do for Oracle?
Sure. I run the development organization for human capital management and our talent management applications, primarily our SaaS or cloud applications. I've been at Oracle for about 8 years, just shy of Patanjali here, so I still have a little more hair, apparently. I got 4 more years of hair, I guess, left. So I came through the PeopleSoft acquisition, so I was at PeopleSoft for a number of years, and that was extremely fun. And then prior to that, I spent some time at Hyperion on the analytics side. So now it's all Oracle. I always say my resume is like one big Oracle shop now. So that's
yeah, I have to go off script because this personal answer was way too boring, right? So how can you forgive your parents not to send you to the right high school to play the right volleyball in Los Angeles where Chris grew up?
So Holger was tweeting about watching a volleyball tournament in Manhattan Beach, and that's where I grew up. So I grew up in Southern California in Manhattan Beach, close to Cornerstone in Santa Monica. I didn't go to Miracosta High. I was Catholic at the time, so I went to Bishop Montgomery. So.
Which Miracosta High is the Harvard for volleyball.
Yeah, it is. I wouldn't have made the team. I played other sports, but
your parents are instructed now.
Yeah, exactly.
So Alan, what motivated you? Alan was very modest in his introduction, right? He worked a very long time with Cognos.
Yes.
Yeah. He probably is the only guy who didn't have to sit here, but wanted to sit here. What motivated you to become CMO at Ceridian?
So it's really the compelling opportunity that Ceridian presents. It's a global company with over 100,000 customers, a terrific footprint in terms of trust and people who understand Ceridian and the results they deliver. And so that was a real important element to me because I think it really is important to be with a company that's built to last. Secondly, and equally important, or more important, I had worked with David Ossip at WorkBrain as an advisor to their marketing, and WorkBrain had been acquired by Infor.
And David is CEO of
and David Ossip became the CEO of Ceridian HCM, and 18 months ago, I was asked to join to drive the marketing as Ceridian renewed itself, built on the strong foundation of their client base across Canada, the UK, and the United States, and the arrival of the single application with one employee, one user interface, and one user experience and no interfaces, and that has been a dynamic environment to have an opportunity to get another run in before they retire me to the old people's home, and it's just an amazing opportunity to be part of a team that is so focused with great leadership and great product. So
very
that's
good.
why I'm
so
here.
Definitely very strong culture. Another company which has a very strong culture is Ultimate. Patanjali showed me at lunch the live feed from the Halloween costume contest. So the VP of HR was dressed up. Who's the white princess? I struggle. I need my 7-9-year-old to help me. She was dressed up as a white princess, Aurora or whoever that is.
Yes,
so people first attracted you to Ultimate. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's been really exciting for me to discover probably one of the only software companies in Florida, success stories. But we have this tagline called People First, and people often think, oh, well, it's just a tagline. But actually, it goes a lot deeper. It's really about how the company was founded around really like a family business, and our CEO, Scott Shear, still runs the organization like a family business, and he really believes in putting his people first and taking care of them. And that sort of permeates all the way throughout to how we do customer service, to actually how we engineer our products and bringing our end users right into the process. So this whole kind of holistic approach to people first really has been exciting to be a part of, and very different from what I've seen. I used to work at Microsoft as well many years ago, and it's really different from what I see in a lot of software companies traditionally have, the approach that they've taken.
Very good. Interesting. And Jason, you gave me the classic marketeer question, right? What makes Cornerstone unique? But we'll go with that, so tell us.
Yeah, so for Cornerstone, we obviously compete against much bigger organizations, and so we try to differentiate ourselves in really 3 different ways. The first is obviously cloud. We hear a lot about the cloud, but we've been doing it for 14 years now in the similar time frame that Salesforce has been in the cloud. So we started in the cloud. That's all we do, and so we think there's a unique advantage from us that we have gone through the battle scars. We have been doing it, and that's the only model that we support today. The second is organic, and the meaning of organic for us is we've built all of the applications ourselves. So our recruiting application, performance application, learning and development applications, we've developed those all ourselves. We haven't had to worry about putting together a bunch of acquisitions and trying to bundle together different purpose-built applications under a single model. I just have seen that hasn't necessarily worked in most instances. So ours is completely built ourselves off the same code base, off the same infrastructure, multi-tenant. There's not many organizations like that within our marketplace that do that. The third is around what we call client success. I know it's a very standard term that many organizations use, but for us it's very much a differentiator where we have a specific team just dedicated for our clients for engagement, for figuring out ways to dial the knobs on configurations, for driving the user experience and the users to our application. We don't charge our clients for it. It's part of what we do, and it's ingrained in what we do. That's probably the highest growth area within our company today as we continue to invest in the business, and something that we think is very critical to have the services component of the software. So those are, I think, the three that stand out for us that we continue to invest quite a bit into.
Very good, thank you. And Chris gave me a question I wouldn't say, because this is a softball question for the panel, each of them to reveal that. And he did one which I thought he wouldn't ask, but and we don't have, oh, now we have the timer running. Because I was going to say, you only have 2 minutes to answer that because Kurt has all of the evening, but we only have 2 minutes for what is Oracle's cloud strategy?
So I'll do it in a couple minutes. You know, our cloud strategy is, we want to be the broadest and deepest, have the broadest and deepest set of applications available to our customers across the industry. And it goes beyond our applications that we deliver. It goes into areas like platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. And really what we designed and where we started, I started on Fusion, the Fusion project a number of years ago, with a couple key design principles in mind. The first one was we knew we needed to design the application differently. And we designed it to have key things that 5, 6, 7 years ago when other cloud vendors started, this was an afterthought. We designed it with analytics, business intelligence kind of natively designed in, and that was just part and parcel to what we knew we had to do to differentiate ourselves over time. The second thing is, and social's been a big part of this conference, is we architected our applications to be what I call socially aware or socially enabled, and we did this from V1, and what that means is we created and designed processes around social capabilities. So we didn't have to come in after the fact and say, hey, there's some great social software. We're going to figure out how we connect to this or how we integrate into our applications. We thought about that up front and designed our processes around that. So we think that's very different. And really the third area that we designed for was extensibility. And we did it in a couple ways. Because the competitor at the time, it wasn't Cornerstone On Demand, it was Salesforce. And Salesforce was successful, as we all know, not because they had the greatest SFA application in the world, it's probably average at best, but because they had a platform as a service that allowed partners and their customers to extend what they had, but not touch the core application and keep that on the latest release. And so we did a couple things. We knew we had to make it extensible, so we built that in. But we also knew that if we were going to cater to some of the largest companies in the world, like UBS and British Telecom, which are some of our customers on the Human Capital Management Cloud, that they have larger engineering staffs than I do, and I have a pretty big staff, that they wanted to build from scratch some custom applications. So that's why we're delivering platform as a service, so you can build custom using standard Java and integrate back to a standard single code line, cloud-based HCM solution, and keep that current. So we wanted to think differently. We got to market with a core set of applications, and then to accelerate that time to market, we've made some strategic acquisitions around CRM and around talent management with our Taleo acquisition, primarily around recruiting and learning management. So in a short, 2 minutes or a little more,
but fair enough, very good. Tough enough a job. Surprised you picked that question. One thing which interests me, having been in a vendor, is and asked this panel about is, we know best practices are changing all the time. How do you make sure, as you plan your next releases, that you are leading enough with a best practice for people to say, wow, these guys have really thought about what we want to do next, versus these guys are insane, they live in a bubble in Santa Monica, in Toronto, in Silicon Valley, in Florida. This doesn't happen with us, right? How do you make sure? Let's start with the marketers first, where the new things to start. Alan, why don't you go first? Yeah.
So really, the whole concept of Dayforce was a major innovation. The way we talk about here, Ray talks about innovation in terms of having a single application for HCM. And so that is driving the release cycle in terms of what we're promising the market and what we're delivering on schedule. So we started with workforce management, which was the core of David Ossip's previous company. And then last year we said we'd add payroll, benefits, et cetera. And so we have a single application. Now we're going to go to launch recruiting. And so the innovation comes within the architecture itself, the fact that we have a single rules engine, the fact that we have one employee record. And so the customer with embedded analytics already in the application knows what's going to come in the paradigm that we've set that is leading the market in terms of how everyone goes, of course, this is how I should get my human capital management. It should be a single application. I should not have to integrate these various pieces and struggle with a whole bunch of interfaces inside the application. So that's the big innovation was launched with the product, and we're building on that through a series of releases on a regular basis. And our clients know exactly what's coming, and we're meeting those milestones that we announce to the analysts annually.
Very good. What does Cornerstone do?
So there's no real set prescription on what we deem innovation, right? We get a lot of requirements and enhancements that come from our customer. And some releases, a majority of them are dedicated, others they're not. But that's an important part of what we do is take enhancements with customers. It's always a juggling act, right? Because you may have one customer that they think they have the best idea that no one else can use. So that's a juggling act. The second is net new innovation. So these are things that we need to deliver to our customers, whether they're asking for it or whether we think it's something new that we need to build as part of our application. An example of that is, we developed a recruiting application about 2 years ago, ground up, and tried to approach it very differently from the traditional legacy recruiting applications. And then the third area is more on kind of the infrastructure area or the framework area. So figuring out new ways that we continue to extend our infrastructure or the potential that we can do through, as Chris mentioned, things like platform as a service or evolve into models like that. So innovation to us means kind of different things, but it's always a juggling act of what comes, how you juggle those releases. For us, since we are multi-tenant, we do 4 releases a year, so we have an ability to juggle probably a little bit easier than some other folks.
Very good. So let's hear from the engineers how it's really done.
I'll go. So we think about innovation. I think about it from a business perspective first, and some of the things that we talk about and we talk to customers about is building amazing teams, building amazing people, freeing the people to interact with other people within the organization, and trying to do things that normal, modern, maybe even not so modern HR systems haven't thought about in the past. And these are things around social. Social's been built in, and we're moving beyond that. So we have this whole concept around looking at the reputation of an employee. I can tell you when I hire engineers and I think about my own life and how I do things. When I go hire engineers, I don't go to LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's a nice place, but you go to LinkedIn and somebody knows Java, PHP, or Perl, and it's very flat. I have no idea what that actually means. Do they know what they're doing or do they not? I go to reputation-based sites like Stack Overflow, where they have a Q&A session. Engineers build up a reputation based on the answers they provide. So those types of concepts we get from the consumer world are things that we look at to be able to put into the enterprise and be able to have employees go beyond just collaboration and social enablement around our applications, but how they can build up their own reputation by what they do within the organization and even what they do outside of the organization. So thinking of those types of concepts and how we can empower individuals. So we look at that. We look at some of the, I forgot what you call them, the 5 pillars of innovation. We look at video sharing and video enablement, those types of things that can be kind of viral within the enterprise and kind of take us out of the traditional benefits, compensation, performance management, goals management. Those types of things are bread and butter, but we want to help employees be better and be amazing. So that's kind of how we try to think a little bit differently.
Very good. So now, tough enough for you, Patanjali. Three stories.
It's kind of interesting. I'm just sitting here listening to my colleagues here, all coming from technology, software companies, and it just occurred to me, we're talking about human capital management, right? This is about people, right? And fundamentally...
And pillows.
And pillows as well, yes. Fundamentally, if you think about it, and end users don't care about the technology. They care about getting their jobs done. Especially with SaaS-based applications, you don't have an IT team in-house, so you actually don't even see the technology half the time. But you do experience the product, the user experience. And if you really think about best practices, really the question should be, how can we figure out how to get the best out of each customer, out of each employee and end user. And really part of the way of doing this is really innovating on the processes in which we innovate itself. In other words, we often, as technology people, sit in a room and come up with great ideas and say, we need to look at this, we need to look at that. But how about bringing those end users as part of the design process, iterating with them, doing collaborative design activities, really making them a part of the process, because they're the people who are going to use the product. And we often forget that this is why we're building these solutions. They're not for the buyers, the decision makers, they're for the end users. So at Ultimate in the last year, I've been fortunate enough to grow the team by about 100%. And we're really rapidly creating a real design engineering organization. Probably one of the most important things that we did from day one is bring end users and customers right into our process. So they were actually part of the agile development process, which is very innovative in itself. And it's been incredible.
Spoken as a true usability guy,
yes,
which you are, right?
Exactly.
So very, very good. Sorry, for the sake of time, I have to jump in.
Sure.
So give me 2 things which you will build in your software in 2014, which are not yet in there. Start with Alan. 2 functionality things, 2 trends you see, 2 things.
So a big part
without getting you in jail and trouble and stuff. Right?
So a big part of our
Safe
business,
harbor.
a big part of what we do is, to follow on the remarks about the users, is employee engagement. And employee engagement is particularly important because 60% of the U.S. workforce is essentially hourly workers, the largest part. And with workforce management and other things, it's really important to work on how do we engage, in many cases, our millennials and Generation X's, and so you're going to see innovations in terms of beyond the straightforward things that we already do in terms of mobility and self-service and shift changes automatically. So they wake up at 3 in the morning and they realize they're not going to make the shift. They have the ability to make shift changes with their friends under approval. We're going to be moving beyond that to engage them in terms of their life events, et cetera, to make sure that we can work with them and our customers like Aeropostale and others, and Guitar Center, I think, is here, won an award last year, and really interact at another level with the engagement of employees, not only with hourly workers, but that's one example.
Jason, as a New Yorker, very quickly.
Very quickly, talent management, I think, is a marketplace that's going to change, maybe not next year in 2014. I don't want to dodge your question, but it's a marketplace that's going to change to become very different in the coming years. So without giving away any futures, things like health and wellness are things to me that are part of talent management. Employee engagement, so getting a pulse of your organization, applications that aren't typically part of a talent management solution can become part of that. So I think we're going to see a whole new plethora of things that become part of talent management or how you manage your talent, I guess.
Very good. In memory speed?
I'll go in memory speed. Can't go that fast. I'll say a couple things, and I have the development plan in my head, so I'll give you just a couple things we're thinking about. First, this whole notion of employee productivity is something that hasn't been delivered to the enterprise, and since HR applications touch every single employee, we're really focused on how we enable better productivity with some capabilities that nobody's ever delivered before. So some of the things we're looking at is this video share and allowing employees to, when I communicate, I can do it in an email or I can do a quick video and share that virally within the organization. So this whole concept of video share being able to deliver it across platforms is something we're delivering early next year. The second one is how to motivate your team. We talk about team engagement, but concepts like team contests is something we'll be rolling out early next year, where you have a marketable way to, if I want to get performance appraisals in a certain time, I can create a contest, or I can create a contest around health and wellness or whatever I want to do to help motivate in a smaller team type environment my employees. So those are 2 innovations that are coming out and 2 new things around personal productivity.
Very good. Florida drug smuggler, boat style speed.
Employee engagement, looking truly at one seamless experience all the way from hire to retire, and most importantly, making sure that we engage end users in the process itself, not just after the fact.
Very good. So I figured out why they are so lengthy answers, because I crowdsourced my questions to them. So each of them gave me 2 questions for each. They know the questions, they don't know which one I'm picking, but I'm running out of the end of time. I don't know exactly if you have 2 questions from the room or if we have extra time for questions from the room. There's no magic answer to that. Any questions from the room? Well then, perfect. Let's ask the questions they would have asked each other then. No question, last call? So the question for Alan was, if I have it here, it would be first time the woman doesn't have any questions, which is interesting. So how do you motivate customers as an old payroll vendor to stay with you?
So I think it's really a combination of the trusted results they've received from Ceridian and the transformational nature of Dayforce, so they can see their future. They trust us. We have a program with them called My Move, and they clearly understand where we're going, when we're getting there, and then it's really their choice to say, I would like to go this year, I'd like to go next year. And so that's been our model with them, is to be open, transparent, talk about where we are, what we're doing, and then let them model their migration, so to speak, into the new cloud. And some are, right now, they're early adopters, and some are saying, you know what, strategically, this is going to take me a couple of years to get ready for this. So it's a very straightforward. They know exactly where we are. They're excited. We've never had more people at our user conferences. We get great feedback. And it's just a natural process from trusted customers to their transformation with us.
To give kudos to Ceridian here, they're the only ones moving a hosted mainframe running payroll to the cloud, right? So something other guys, Oracle might learn sometime when we move to Fusion.
We're offering mainframe products.
How to get, you have the mainframe, right?
Yeah.
But moving customers is the hard thing, right?
Yeah.
For mainframe might be even harder, but moving them without disruption is a very important thing. So
We've already done that across the board.
you've done that too.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Very much
But
so.
Jason, you're the only guy who's exposed, I kind of hinted with the intro there, right? Because you're the only one who doesn't have core HR.
Right.
Any plans in Cornerstone to have core HR?
I think we used to get that question all of the time, and not so much anymore. To us, there's no desire to go to build a core HR system. In part is because I don't think companies need another core HR system. Frankly, I don't think the rip and replace is in the best interest in a lot of organizations with investment money. So I think with talent management solutions today, you can do a lot of that core capability within a talent management system to drive engagement, to drive those core HR processes. Not to say that core HR systems aren't important, they still are, but I'm not saying that's where a majority of innovation is going to go in the future. So for us, we think that the world doesn't necessarily need another core HR system. Our focus is really to build the best talent management solution and to build all of those things collectively, building out an ecosystem so companies can focus on the people and how to run their business with their people versus when payroll is going to get pushed out or how to do benefits or those types of things that today I think most organizations could probably want to get rid of anyways.
Very
That's
good.
my quick response.
Good answer, thank you. So question for Oracle for Chris was, why isn't Fusion making any more progress? How many customers are live?
I think we're making a lot of progress. So what we announced at Open World was we have 700 customers. That's more than Workday, and we've been out 4 or 5 years less. And it's like 85% of business by design before they canceled it. Yep. So I think we're repurposed it, yeah. Replatformed it. No, I'm kidding. Refactored. So actually, I think we're doing pretty well. We have some of the largest companies in the world, like UBS and British Telecom and Siemens, and your favorite. I think you say Siemens, but whatever,
Siemens,
however you want to say it. So I actually think we're doing pretty well.
Very good. And the question for Patanjali from Ultimate, do you have to get more aggressive in talent management, hearing what Jason is saying?
Not at all, actually. I mean, we're just, this month, we're releasing our latest compensation management product, which was really built from the ground up with customers involved right from day one. It's really exciting to see how that actually is turning out. And we're continuing to innovate very much so in that area. So I kind of found it interesting, about how do you be more aggressive when you're already coming out with new products and innovations in this space. And more importantly, we're doing it with customers and end users are part of the process.
Very good. All right, audience question. Who is the better socks on, Patanjali or Jason?
I'm boring.
Nobody's paying attention. Huh? All right, any questions from the audience? Because we're out of time. No. Oh, here's one. Anybody? Yell, Alex, yeah.
Well, I'll just say it.
Yeah, yell, I repeat it.
So how do you guys like to work?
How do you like to work?
What is it that makes your work day?
No, you shouldn't have said workday.
Who? What? I don't know that word.
Yeah, so how do you like to work? And, how would you like your day to be? And, I just want to hear that, And how do you relate that then to what you do professionally?
There's a nice golf course out here and a beach
Yeah.
down the road.
So how would you apply that to your technology
Yes.
then? How would you do that?
I thought we said that already, right? Alan likes to hike, Jason travels, Chris wants to play beach volleyball, and Patanjali steps on objects when he's scuba diving. No, just kidding.
Isn't that the nature of work now, though?
Yes.
You are everywhere.
I think you ask a very
and
good
you don't,
question.
You don't. I mean, how often do you guys wear these jackets? I mean, you don't. No one does. You know, the truth is, we're here at conferences, and you get dressed up.
I want to
But-
know how often Patanjali wears these socks.
Just for you, Holger.
Thank you. That's what I want to hear.
Because there's lots of young startups that are totally adapting to this new world, where they're like providing lots of interesting services for people who just work anywhere, who like may be out on the golf course and doing their work. I don't see how, this a lot of this legacy software can even come close to serving these people.
So I think really there's a lot of elements to that, but most people work virtually in most companies now. Where we work as a company is with our customers mostly. Our job is to be out talking to our customers and our prospect, understanding the market. So that's a driver for all of us to be out with the customers and in the market. So that's done with all the devices that we talked about today. In terms of technology and innovation, our products are in the cloud and everything is about mobility, about self-service, about empowerment, about allowing both the engaged user, that is our customer, the ability to choose the way they want to work with the software, either depending on the nature of their work, if they're a retailer or if they're a different type of company. And I think that the way everyone likes to work now is immediately, now, make it happen, be successful in servicing your stakeholders as quickly as possible and the key things that will make them successful in their roles.
Let me answer that question as well, because I think we're seeing we will see the convergence of two ways to work, right? So we work with lots of big organizations, right? Financial institutions, Goldman Sachs, BNP Paribas. They have specific requirements for their business that isn't going to change immediately overnight, right? Compliance requirements. So they can't adopt to jumping on social, jumping on all the new technologies overnight. It's an evolution for them, right? Conversely, we have smaller customers that want all of the latest and greatest technology yesterday, and the way they work is very different. So, there's no right answer for every organization, right? And bigger organizations with more complexity and more compliance issues aren't always going to be the most progressive. But, I agree with you. There's startups that are doing very amazing things, and the trick is trying to incorporate some of those capabilities. I'll try to finish real quick. We recently did a survey, and one of the interesting things of that survey is employees are now buying their own applications, their own mobile applications to get their job done. They're not going to IT. They're not going through the corporate channels because they can, right? And so that's going to be the trick, is trying to bridge that divide of the corporate mandated stuff versus the stuff that employees want to get their work done, and they're going to do it because they can. So that's my quick take.
I probably have a little bit of an advantage. I've got a lot of new millennials on my team. And they remind me every day about where we're going, because really when you think about the future of work, you have to look at the future workforce. And the future workforce works and operates very differently. Twitter, Facebook, Google, and what have you. And I think it's more than just having kind of instantaneous, we want it now, but understanding that blurring of the lines between personal and work is much more blurred today than it ever was before. Yet all of the enterprise software applications were built based on transactions, were based on a 9-to-5 work week, work day. Who works 9 to 5 anymore? I'd love that job if we had it, but it doesn't exist. So
Holger.
Holger
all the time,
he plays golf.
German time, 9 to 5.
German time, 9 to 5. I'm done at 8 a.m. California time.
And McKinsey, talked about 2007. They did the first study about the changing face of work, and talked about how transactional knowledge is really being shifted to more tacit knowledge, hallway conversations, ad hoc types of meetings and conversations. Yet a lot of enterprise technology hasn't kept up with that. Right. And the user experiences are still thinking transactional, when it's a whole different world when you start to think about how end users experience and absorb tacit knowledge and share. It's a whole different ballgame. And so it comes back to the same message I said before. We need to bring those end users, those millennials, the different, in fact, multi-generational into the actual process. So we really understand inherently what's going to work for them because they are the future workforce, and that's who we should be designing for.
Yeah. Chris?
All I can think about is Halloween. I got to get home by 5 for my 6-year-old to do trick-or-treating. So I think we answered the question.
Full work style. Okay. The clock says 0, but I'll keep going if there's any other question from the audience. Otherwise, I hope so, yeah. Get the next panel started. Are you on it? Very good. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Holger.
Thank you, Holger. Thank you.